Oh my God. Oh my God. Did all of that just happen? Did all of that just happen? That has to be one of the one of the craziest, like, when you try and predict these things and when you try and think, like, okay, how are they going to go with these kind of things? We knew Bryan Danielson was going to show up. But, well, we didn't know, but there was the big feeling was Bryan Danielson's going to show up. There was a feeling maybe we weren't sure about Adam Cole. If Adam Cole did show up, maybe that would be later on. That'd be the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in New York. Maybe that's where they would be going with that one, right? That's the direction they would be going with that one. But they threw tonight AEW. By they, obviously, I mean AEW, Tony Khan, whatever. They threw everything at the wall. They threw absolutely everything at that wall and said, you know what? Have it all. Just go ahead. Have it all. Have it all. You know, you want Bryan Danielson, we'll give you that. You want to have Adam Cole, yeah, we'll give you that as well. Oh, you want to have CM Punk's first match as well, we'll give you that too. Oh my goodness, absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. Chuck Gank says, best pay-per-view in a long time from any company. That ending was perfect. Darth Thor says, I lost my freaking mind and woke up my 4-year-old. Davies for Life says, Owen, that was so cool. Thank you for doing these live streams. Feels so personal, and I don't have a lot of people to chat about this. Thank you. You're always welcome here, guys. Always welcome here. What a show. That's what it is. We're talking about pro wrestling with our friends here. We have a great community. We have a lot of fun here, and man, that ending. Oh my, I'm still kind of in a bit of shock about what we saw. What we'll do is we'll probably go for half hour, 45 minutes. These are just post-show reaction streams. I don't do star ratings. I'll just sort of say my feelings on the match, get you guys' opinions on the match as well. We'll get through to the main sort of talking points, although it's pretty crazy. I mean, that to me tonight, overall as a show, I mean, if we're going to talk broad strokes here, overall as a show, obviously excellent show, really well put together. There wasn't many matches, let's be honest here, there wasn't many matches if you look at that card that didn't deliver. I think pretty much every match delivered. There's no match on there. I don't even really want to talk about the Paul White one that much because it's just like, it was just there and people knew what to expect of that one, to be honest with you. But apart from that, everything delivered, didn't it? I mean, everything delivered, and that ending legitimately feels like a moment. You know, sometimes you're watching pro wrestling, you're watching a match, and you say to yourself, like, this feels really significant right now. What I'm watching feels really important. What I'm watching feels like a big deal. And that's kind of what it felt like watching that show tonight, didn't it? It felt like, man, they just brought out Adam Cole. Man, they just brought out Daniel Bryan. Man, they had CM Punk wrestling earlier. Man, they've got Kenny Omega in the ring. They just upped the Elite faction to another level as well. They just, how do you top that? How do you top that? And, you know, people can talk about AEW versus WWE, and I don't really want to get into that in this post-show stream because it's not about that. It's about celebrating. Tonight was a win for pro wrestling. It felt like that was a great pro wrestling show. That was really a great pro wrestling show, and it was just, it just felt really special, and it felt like AEW recently has been really good at delivering moments, really good moments, whether it's Punk's debut or now of Adam Cole, because this was kind of the double whammy swerve, isn't it? This was kind of, I remember hearing Jericho talking about it previously when they were going to do the Brody Lee Exalted One reveal last year, when I was meant to be in Rochester. They were going to have Matt Hardy make the debut as well on that show. It was going to be sort of a double whammy, and they basically went with it tonight. They went with the double whammy, but it was Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, and it's just it's tremendous. I mean, I'm seeing all the people saying, rating it 10 out of 10 in the comments. I mean, it's hard to argue. It's just unbelievable. What an ending, and it feels like a big win for pro wrestling. A real big win for pro wrestling, a big win for AEW. Fascinated already to see what they have in store for Dynamite on Wednesday. Fascinated to see how it plays out in terms of the ratings. Tonight feels like a shift. I think that's the best way to describe it. Of course, the show was tremendous, and we come to expect it from AEW, but tonight really feels like a shift, and what they've already got in store Wednesday night on Dynamite, whether it's Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. We haven't even spoken about that yet, but it's Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. We've got Adam Cole in AEW. We've got Bryan Danielson in AEW. We've got CM Punk. Where does he go next? Who does he face next? All of these questions. It's tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. And it's only the beginning. Because we've got Bray Wyatt's going to come in. We even got Ric Flair going to get involved. I know people are going to go, Ric Flair, all that kind of stuff, but still, it's still Ric Flair at the end of the day on TNT or back on TBS next year. These are really exciting times, and it does feel legitimately like a shift. I think that's the real thing I could say coming out of this one is tonight feels like a big deal, a really big deal. And you have to look at like the aspects of this right now, because you do get the impression, and this is what WWE wanted to avoid when AEW was first setting up at the end of sort of 2018, beginning of 2019, is that they wanted to stockpile all of these talents because they didn't want to give the impression that the rats were jumping the sinking ship, if you will. And it started, hasn't it? CM Punk decided to go to AEW. Bryan Danielson decided to sign with AEW. Adam Cole decided to sign with AEW. These names continue to come over. And that argument, that narrative, these are just guys that WWE released. These are the guys WWE didn't want. WWE wanted Daniel Bryan. WWE wanted Adam Cole. WWE even wanted CM Punk. They had discussions with him in December of 2020. These are guys now that are actively making the decision to choose AEW over WWE. That's the big deal. That's the really big deal. So just what an incredible show. What a great show. And let's get into it. Let's get into the matches. We'll go through these sort of... I think it's usually... when we did SummerSlam the other week, I'll be like, let's get through the preliminary matches. Let's get to the main event. Now, every match was significant on this show. That's why it's right up there. And I expect it to break all kind of records for AEW, to be honest with you. I think it's going to break all sorts of records. So... we had a match on the pre-show, which feels like a million years ago at this point. We had a match on the pre-show. It was the 10-man tag team match. We had the Best Friends, which was Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Wheeler Yuta, and Jurassic Express, which did make an appearance at the end of the show, defeat the Hardy Family, Hardy Family Office, Matt Hardy, Private Party, and the Hybrid 2. It was a fine match. There's not really a lot to talk about, especially with that after that ending. It feels like there's not a lot to talk about. It feels not a lot to talk about, but they got the victory when Jungle Boy got the snare submission on, and he got the victory. It was your bog standard pre-show match. A lot of people involved. Fun finish towards the end. There was a fun spot when Jungle Boy was on Luchasaurus' shoulders, and it was a crossbody. I forget who it was from, but he turned it into like a sort of standing C4 off of Luchasaurus' shoulders. So that was tremendous. Good way to start the show. Then we get on to the opening match of the show, which was for the TNT Championship. Miro retains the TNT Championship over Eddie Kingston, which was to be expected. But to be honest with you, and again, this is crazy because it feels so long ago. So it was like 5 hours ago at this point, and so much has happened between now and then. Eddie Kingston was robbed. Because Miro, after struggling to put Eddie Kingston away, tried everything, tried his finish, tried the camel clutch, tried everything, and couldn't do it. There was a point in the match where Eddie Kingston ripped the turnbuckle pad off the turnbuckle. And Eddie Kingston, at one point, hits the DDT, and it looks like he's going to win the match because he hits the DDT. But the referee, Bryce Remsburg, who screwed Eddie Kingston, by the way, was going to put the turnbuckle cover back on. He's not paying attention, waits a couple of seconds, and then Miro kicks out at 2. So we're already peed off about that. And then Eddie Kingston goes to use the exposed turnbuckle. Bryce Remsburg, I can never say his name, says, no, you can't do it. Miro hits the mule kick low blow and then gets the victory after a kick to the head. So Eddie Kingston got screwed over. I don't think it's the end of this feud. I hope not anyway, because this feels like a good TNT Championship feud. I know Tony Khan doesn't like to say, mid-card championships, they don't exist in our company. We don't have mid-card championship. Don't call it a mid-card championship. I'm not booking it like a mid-card championship. Sorry, Tony. It's a mid-card title. The TNT title is a mid-card title. It's just how you book it. That shouldn't be a derogatory term. We shouldn't take that as a derogatory term, but that's what it is. But this is the perfect TNT Championship feud, in my opinion. I think it still has legs. The crowd are absolutely hugely into Eddie Kingston. And I would like to see this feud continue. I think there's a plethora of the people that Miro can face and will face for the TNT Championship. There's no doubt about that. But I thought the match was fun. A great opener to the show. Didn't go too long. Doesn't need to go too long. Really doesn't need to. But the crowd was super, super into it. And they were super into Eddie Kingston, it must be said. So Miro gets the victory as to be expected. But I hope this one isn't over. Because I think there's more story to tell here. That must be said. Next up was Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima. And, in fairness, they delivered a good match, a really physical match. I mean, you talk about physical matches. That first match, Eddie Kingston chopped Miro so many times and so hard, his chest was like bright red. It looked like chopped meat. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. His chest looked like chopped meat. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. So it was interesting that they followed it up with a kind of similar match, it must be said. They did kind of follow up with a bit of a similar one with Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima. And look, let's be honest. A lot of people had hoped we were going to be getting Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi or Jon Moxley versus, I don't know if Okada was realistic or whoever would have been realistic, Ibushi, probably not realistic. And people might have felt a bit let down. Not let down, maybe is the right word, because Kojima is a legend, but it could have been someone a bit bigger. And for a period of time, or for the majority of this match, the crowd did feel a little bit like down because they were coming down off that first one. But Jon Moxley gets the victory, hitting the Avalanche, or the Death Rider, what do you want to call it, Paradigm Shift, whatever you want to call it. It was quite cool that Jon Moxley came to the ring sporting a GCW hoodie, by the way. Of course, he's the GCW World Champion, so that was pretty cool. But the real exciting thing in this one, the real exciting thing when it comes to Moxley happened after the match. Because after the match, Moxley's standing in the ring. Suddenly we hear some music start playing. And who is it? It's none other than his old foe, Minoru Suzuki, is in AEW. Now, the exciting thing about Minoru Suzuki being in AEW is that wasn't even nearly the biggest thing that happened tonight. That wasn't even nearly the biggest thing that happened tonight. Usually, if Minoru Suzuki showed up in All Elite Wrestling, you'd be like, man, that's the biggest thing to happen on this show. That's amazing. I'm really excited. Minoru Suzuki versus Jon Moxley again, because they've had matches in the past where they just beat the hell out of each other. Absolutely. I'm all in. I'm ready for that one. It wasn't even the biggest thing to happen on this show because you had so much other stuff going on, which is just a testament to how red hot AEW is right now. So Minoru Suzuki makes his way to the ring. He milked it, but absolutely, why can't he? He's Minoru Suzuki, for goodness sake. You got to tell him to speed up? No, you just bite your face off. So he's not going to do that. So Minoru Suzuki comes out, confronts Jon Moxley. They're staring at each other in the ring. The crowd's going crazy. The crowd was singing to Suzuki's music, which was awesome as well. So they're facing off. Minoru Suzuki slowly takes the jacket off. They're facing off, and they just start beating the hell out of each other. Forearms, right hands, chopping each other. Tremendous. Anyway, eventually Suzuki gets the advantage, hits the Gotch-style pile driver, stands over Moxley, puts his foot on his chest. Crowd's going crazy, and you're like, man, this is the second match of the show. This is the second match of the show. If that's like the minimum of what they've got planned for tonight, what on earth have they got planned for later on? And man, they lived up to it. Credit, they lived up to it. You've got over 110 people watching now, so be sure to smash a like on the like button if you're just still in shock about what you've just seen at All Out. Absolutely unbelievable show. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I think we're nearly at 5,100 as well, which is amazing. If we can get to 5,100, we're like 15 away or something like that. So we can get 15 new subscribers. That would be unbelievable, absolutely amazing. So really appreciate everyone that's joined us tonight, and smash the like on the video and subscribed. It's amazing. But yeah, so because Minoru Suzuki came out and attacked Jon Moxley, of course, this Wednesday night on Dynamite on TNT is being presented as a Dynamite homecoming, if you will, for Jon Moxley, because it's in Cincinnati, Ohio, which of course is where Jon Moxley is from. So what do they do? What match do they book for Jon Moxley's hometown match, his homecoming? Jon Moxley, Minoru Suzuki on free TV on Dynamite. Oh my God, that's a pay-per-view level match. I think a lot of people would have rather preferred Moxley versus Kojima versus Suzuki tonight. That would have been the match that I think that people would have wanted to see. Is it smarter for them to do it on Dynamite? I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes. Because look at this card. If it was Moxley versus Suzuki tonight, not that that match gets lost in a shuffle, but given the other matches on the show, whether it is the tag title cage match, which for me stole the show, whether it even is a Ruby Soho showing up in the Women's Battle Royale, whether it's Chris Jericho nearly retiring, whether it's CM Punk's first match in 7.5 years, whether it's that ending that involves Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole coming to AEW, Moxley versus Suzuki would have got lost in that. It absolutely would have. Even though it's a great match, it's a physical match, it would have got lost in this card tonight. To me, it absolutely makes way more sense to shoot the angle on tonight's show, then do the match on Dynamite, pop a big number, be in the main event. Moxley gets the spotlight that he didn't get tonight. That's smart booking for me. So I think Tony Khan got that one absolutely right. And that's not to say that the Moxley-Kojima match was bad, because it wasn't. I think towards the end, they won the crowd over. Kojima's a legend. The fact that he's in his 50s and he can still do this. I mean, so is Minoru Suzuki, to be honest with you. But I thought it was tremendous. I thought that angle was tremendous. The crowd was super, super into it. So tremendous match. Very much enjoyed that one. And Minoru Suzuki versus Jon Moxley this coming week on Dynamite. Oh my goodness. In Jon Moxley's hometown, and they're going to beat the hell out of each other in a main event, because it's got to be the main event, right? It has to be the main event. If that's, the only way it could not be the main event if it was opening match of the show. But for me, you build to that. That's the main event. It's Jon Moxley's hometown, for goodness sake, right? That should be the match. So, again, that was second match on the show, which is just craziness. So the next match was for the Women's Championship. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, retains her Women's Championship over Kris Statlander, which was expected, to be honest with you. It was a fine match. Crowd was into Statlander more than I thought they were. Obviously, crowd was still into Britt Baker. She's a superstar, and there was never any chance in a million years that Britt Baker was going to lose this match and lose the Women's Championship. So there's no doubt about that. I mean, it felt like just sometimes, I talk about this all the time when I talk about people like Deonna Purrazzo, in that sometimes when you're defending the championships, you just need to, you can have the match, and this was a fine match against Kris Statlander, a more than capable opponent. I'm trying to think of like the most memorable points of the match. Arguably one of the most memorable points of the match was seeing Orange Cassidy fire up on the outside of the ring. He was showing emotion, telling Kris Statlander to get back in the ring. Arguably that was probably the bit that had the most sort of memorable moment of the match. Britt Baker gets the victory using the lockjaw submission. I think the finish was great. The finish was very good, actually, because looking back on it now, it teased the Adam Cole. It teased the Adam Cole showing up in AEW. Now, when she hit it, because basically the finish that led into her getting the submission victory, she hits a Panama Sunrise, so that flip pile driver jumping off the second rope, hits the Panama Sunrise, 1-2 kick out, then hits the stomp, I think another kick out at 2, and then gets lockjaw in, gets the victory. So it was Panama Sunrise, stomp into the lockjaw, which, to be honest, does protect Kris Statlander quite a lot, because it's a case of look how much it took to beat her, for goodness sake. Now at the time, I think everyone looked at that and went, well, Panama Sunrise, it's just an ode to Adam Cole. They are real life partners, of course. So it's a wink and a nod. Oh yeah, Adam Cole's a free agent, blah, blah, blah. I don't think anyone saw the Panama Sunrise and thought Adam Cole's showing up tonight. Because everyone thought, well, Daniel Bryan's showing up, Bryan Danielson's showing up, and Adam Cole might show up in AEW, but that will probably happen in a couple of weeks' time in New York at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. That's probably where we're going. In reality, the angle they shot tonight probably sets up the main event of the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. If you think about it, you've got Jurassic Express, which is what? Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Bryan Danielson, Christian Cage. I don't know whether they'll put Marko Stunt in there, so maybe 4, versus Kenny Omega, Adam Cole, Young Bucks. 4-on-4. That's probably going to be your main event for Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. I think that might be the thing that we're going to see. Just saying. So when Britt Baker hit the Panama Sunrise, I think a lot of people just thought, well, it's a nice nod to Adam Cole, but he might be showing up in AEW, but I don't think that's happening tonight. I don't think that's going to be the case. So Britt Baker gets the victory, and excited, of course, because she's going to be defending that championship very soon against Ruby Soho, who made her debut later on tonight as well. So next up was the Tag Team Championship Steel Cage match, which for me, in a show that was filled with just unbelievable matches, it must be said, in a show that was just filled with absolutely incredible matches, for me, this was the match that stole the show. In my opinion, I think this is the match that stole the show. Even though that we had a show that had a CM Punk match, which I think was good. I had a main event, which again was good. This was the one that I just thought was just something else. And to be honest with you, initially, and if you watched the watch along with me as well, you would have probably seen this actually. When I did the watch along initially, they kind of just did what they do in the Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers match, because we had a really high standard coming into this. Let's be honest here. Why wouldn't we have a super high standard coming into this one? Because they're incredible. They're both incredible tag teams, and we expect a super high standard from both of them, because they've always delivered amazing matches, whether it's ladder matches, whether it's whatever. So we expect a super, super high standard from both of them. And it felt like initially that they were just doing like just spots, go to the next spot, go to the next spot, go to the next spot. And I mentioned this on the watch and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling the psychology initially, because it felt like just spot into spot into spot into spot. Where that changed though for me, where that really started to change, and I thought actually they're really getting onto something here, is when they started to bloody up the Lucha Brothers, because it went from spot to spot, athletic spot, then it got violent. And then you realize, actually, this is a steel cage match. It's meant to be super violent. It's meant to be, gritty. This is what steel cage matches are. They're meant to be grudge matches. They're meant to be violent. They're meant to be bloody. And that's exactly what they did, because the Young Bucks then started to bloody up the Lucha Brothers. They ripped the masks, which allowed the Lucha Brothers to bleed, obviously, so they were bleeding. By the way, Pentagon was bleeding like a stuffed pig. I mean, when I say a stuffed pig, I mean the guy, it was oozing out of him. It was just dripping out of Pentagon. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. If you thought this was the match of the night, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. We've got nearly 170 people watching, which is amazing. So be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. We're like 15 away from 5,100, which is amazing. Amazing support tonight. Really do appreciate it, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the video. So yes, we had this. It suddenly got violent. Suddenly got really violent and really bloody. So Pentagon's really busted open. Rey Fénix is busted open. Matt Jackson brings out the sneaker that has all the thumbtacks on the bottom of it, and they're driving it into the face. Or they're going to hit it. That was it. They were going to hit it into Rey Fénix first. Pentagon dives in the way. Goes, no, don't hit it in front of my. Don't hit it to my younger brother. Hit it to me. Hit it to me. And they do. He takes the bullet. That right there, and okay, this match is going somewhere, because now they're telling stories. It's not just spot to spot to spot. Now they're telling a story. Now they're talking about defending the younger brother, because again, this is what you should tap into with these two tag teams. These are brothers. They're not just tag teams. These are brother tag teams. And where they're defending the younger brother, and he sort of stepped in for the younger brother and all that kind of stuff. I thought that's when it got genius. And it looked like it was over. They managed to come back. Rey Fénix, of course, is just a madman, an absolute madman. Climbs up to the top of the cage, and again, this is a big cage. We're talking a cage that's like 25 feet. This cage is no joke, absolutely no joke. So Rey Fénix climbs to the top of the cage. Must be what, 25, 30 feet. Does the big cross body. They then do the pile driver, Lucha Brothers onto the Young Bucks, get the victory. New AEW World Tag Team Champions. Again, match of the night. Absolutely match of the night. On a card that was already stacked and had some great matches on. But this was just something else. And again, I've been critical. I think a lot of people have been critical of like Young Bucks matches in the past or Lucha Brothers matches in the past. But I think this was better than any other match that they've done in the past, because I legitimately think they told a story. Because that's the big criticism of the Young Bucks. Oh, they don't tell stories. There's no psychology. And for the first quarter of the match, there wasn't. It felt like it was before. But once they started to tell a story, once there's something you could actually believe in, and you sympathize for Penta because he's defending his younger brother. You sympathize for Rey Fénix because he's watching his older brother just get destroyed. That's drama. That's pro wrestling. That's storytelling right there. That's another level. That's elite, pun intended, but that's elite level stuff. That, for me, is why I went, okay, that's the match of the night. It's not just the match of the night because it went the longest. It did go the longest by 5 seconds, actually. But it was the match of the night because I felt it told a story. It was gripping. It was emotional. Great placement in the card as well. I know people like to open the show or go on the end. Middle of the show is a great point as well. And I just thought it was a tremendous match. And the Young Bucks, I think there was a discussion of when the Young Bucks were going to drop the titles. It was either now against the Lucha Brothers or in New York against Santana and Ortiz. I could certainly see the Lucha Brothers dropping the titles as soon as New York. I know that's it's a couple of weeks away. It's like 3 weeks away, to be honest with you. So I know that's a real possibility, but they might hold it a little bit longer, but to be honest, it's deserved. It's deserved. I mean, Penta and Rey Fénix are an unbelievable tag team. I still hope we get to a point where we see him as single stars. Rey Fénix, to me, is this generation's version of Rey Mysterio. I think he's going to be that big. He's just got that much potential. The guy's still in his 20s, which is incredible. He is that talented. He's going to be this version's generation of Rey Mysterio. I have no doubt about it. He's going to be this generation's mass sensation. He's just that good. Just that good. And Penta ain't that bad either, and they both come from singles backgrounds anyway. It's only in the last few years they've started teaming up as a tag team, as brothers tag team anyway. So this one for me, again, stole the show. Absolutely stole the show. You'll struggle to find a better tag team match than this, and we know about how strong AEW's tag team division is, but this blew it out the water. Absolutely blew it out the water, and you kind of worried, to be honest. That my worry at the time was, how do they follow this? How do they follow this, even though you've got Punk and you've got the main event, and we knew that Bryan Danielson was coming. We didn't know Adam Cole was coming, but we knew that was all coming. I was thinking, how do you follow that? How on earth do you follow that? And they managed it. They absolutely did manage it. So up next was the Women's Casino Battle Royale. And the surprise entrant, the Joker entrant, was Ruby Soho. Now, she's not on the screen right there because you can never be sure when you're making these things. Ruby Soho was the surprise entrant, the former Ruby Riott. Huge pop from the crowd. Again, expected. But I never, this is the thing now, because I know a lot of people will complain, nothing's a surprise anymore. Nothing's a surprise. In the modern day that we live in with social media and the internet and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, nothing's a surprise anymore. And let's be honest here. Is that frustrating? Sometimes. But when you know what to expect, this is the thing, isn't it? And this is what I think WWE's got into trouble with in the past. When you know what to expect, if you're happy with it, you'll pop anyway. So we all knew it was going to be Ruby Soho, but we didn't mind that because we like Ruby Soho. We all knew Bryan Danielson was going to come out tonight, so if he didn't come out, we'd probably be disappointed because in our head we went, well, it's got to be Bryan Danielson. This is when it works out in your favor that you kind of know what's going to happen. So Ruby Soho came out, huge pop, great addition to the women's division. I think looking at this match as well, again, I mentioned that the steel cage match was the longest match on the show, 22 minutes and 5 seconds. Second longest match on this show, this match, which was 22 minutes. So I think that's great for AEW. I really do. One of my biggest criticisms of AEW has been their booking or lack thereof of the women's division. And let's face it, the women's division got 2 matches on this show. They got over 30 minutes of action on this show, over 33 minutes of action, because they got the women's battle royale and they got the women's title match. And that's what I've been myself calling out for when it comes to AEW. I think the biggest sort of lie and myth about the AEW women's division is that they don't have the talent. That used to be in the past, where they just don't have the talent, they don't have the names, and that's so false. Look at the names that are in there. You've got Thunder Rosa, you've got Hikaru Shida, you've got Tay Conti, you've got even people like, Ali, the bunny, I hate that name, but Ali, now you've got Kiera Hogan, Anna Jay, Riho, you've got characters like Abadon in there as well, Red Velvet, now you've got Ruby Soho, who's a great worker as well. So there are great names in there, and that would be always be my sort of big point of people going, they just don't have the names, they don't have the talent. That's such a lie. They just need opportunities. They need opportunities, and they got opportunities tonight. Ruby Soho last eliminated Thunder Rosa. I think that's probably the right move. The reason I say I think that's probably the right move is because I think they need to save Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. I think that match needs to probably happen at Full Gear, which of course would probably be November, something like that. So I think they probably need to save that. I think that's wise. Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker then would probably happen at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in New York. So I think that makes sense. And look, Ruby Soho was over. Super over. So was Thunder Rosa, it must be said. Thunder Rosa was tremendous as well. So again, I was really happy with this one. I was glad to see them get a lot of time. I was glad to see them finally have multiple female matches on the show. And Ruby Soho, excellent addition. Excellent addition to the women's division. And excited to see Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker. What a great match that's going to be. Next match was MJF versus Chris Jericho. Of course, if Chris Jericho had lost, he would have had to retire from in-ring competition in AEW. Now, this one was an interesting one because for the majority of it, to be honest with you, the crowd was flat. The crowd was flat for this one. They felt tired at this point. Match went over 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 15 seconds. And again, for the majority of it, it did feel like the crowd was kind of tired. Not just necessarily tired. This is when it goes into knowing what to expect. I don't think anyone for 96% of this match legitimately thought Chris Jericho was going to retire. They thought Jericho's going to win. There's no way he's going to retire. It's just not going to happen. He's not going to retire. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That all changed though when they went into the finish, because they did a finish where MJF hits Chris Jericho with the baseball bat Floyd because Wardlow comes down to the ring. Jake Hager comes out to fight him off. Referee's distracted. MJF grabs the baseball bat. Floyd hits Jericho in the face of it, then hits the Judas effect on Jericho. Jericho goes down. He's near the ropes. So you're thinking foot on the rope. He's going to get his foot on the rope. You know when they're just placed? They're placed perfectly next to the ropes. You go, he's going to get his foot on the ropes. That's going to happen. So he does. He gets his foot on the ropes, but the referee counts it anyway. 1, 2, 3. MJF's putting his hand up. Justin Roberts says, the winner of the match, MJF, Chris Jericho must retire. And they played it. They played it for like a good 15, 20 seconds. And it was like, oh, damn, they're actually going to go through with it. And then you thought to yourself, okay, this is how they're going to have Jericho sort of retire, then eventually come back in maybe 6 months' time. This is how he's going to go on tour with Fozzy and all that kind of stuff, because you thought to yourself, right, Jericho isn't actually going to retire, but he is going to disappear for a while. And that's when it got people, because then they thought, actually, I can believe in that. I can't believe that Jericho's going to retire and that's him actually done, because we know he's not going to actually be done. But I certainly can believe is that he would go away for 6 months. I can certainly believe that they would do an angle that would sort of screw him into retirement, then eventually he comes back. I can really buy into that because we know his commitments. We know his commitments to touring. We know his commitments to Fozzy. And when they did that, they got people. A crowd that wasn't emotionally invested literally went from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. Because they were desperate. Oh, we don't want to see Chris Jericho get screwed over. Don't have Jericho be screwed over. Can't screw over Chris Jericho. Don't want it to end this way. Don't end this way, Chris Jericho. We don't want that to happen. All that kind of stuff. They got them. They absolutely got them. I thought it was a masterclass of just sort of taking a crowd that just wasn't really invested and didn't believe enough and didn't have that kind of, I'm not sure I'm buying into what this angle is or what this stipulation is. They turned it around, immediately flipped it on its head. Immediately the crowd was in uproar. And then they go straight into the finish of the referee. Paul Turner goes up to Aubrey Edwards, says, no, I was there the whole time, because he came down to ringside when Hager and Wardlow were brawling, and says, I was there the whole time. I saw his foot was on the rope the whole time. Aubrey Edwards says, what? Foot was on the rope? Restarts the match. MJF goes for another move. Jericho counters, gets him in the walls of Jericho. Looks like MJF's going to get to the ropes. Pulls him away, sits down. MJF taps out. Tremendous. And the crowd was going crazy at that point. That's how they got them. That's how they got them. They got them to believe just for enough time. And for, again, that match went 21 minutes, 15 seconds. I would argue for 20 minutes, the crowd was not invested. They was not invested because they thought they knew the outcome. And then for a second, when they teased it going in a different direction, that's how it got them. That's how it got them. And I think that was really clever. Whoever came up with that finish, I think it's genius. Because I myself am watching this going, well, crowd feels a bit tired. They're already looking forward to CM Punk coming back. They're already hoping and thinking about when does Daniel Bryan come into all of this and all this kind of stuff. That's what they were thinking at that point. And whoever came up with that finish, again, I thought it was genius because they got him. And they got me. They got me involved in it. They got me invested. And I think they got everyone else invested. So I thought it was tremendous. Really was tremendous for like, 90 seconds, the final 90 seconds. Apart from that, it was just kind of, it was what it was. But that finish I thought was really, really good. Next up was the match that I think a lot of people probably bought this pay-per-view for, certainly tuned into it for, was CM Punk facing Darby Allin. Of course, this was CM Punk's first match in 7.5 years. CM Punk returning to the ring, his first match since the Royal Rumble match in January of 2014. So a lot of people really didn't know what to expect. First of all, CM Punk came out, he's changed his in-ring gear. CM Punk in trunks is no more. CM Punk is now wearing tights, which was a bit of a jarring thing to get used to. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you, because CM Punk for years in WWE spoke about how he wanted to change his gear. After he did the whole pipe bomb promo in Vegas in 2011, he wanted to change to fight shorts and go back to kind of what he was wearing on the independent scene and wanted to change. And I suppose that should come as no surprise that CM Punk wanted to change up his look, and he did. He changed up his look. He's now wearing tights. Again, it's a bit jarring, but at the end of the day, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. What really does matter is CM Punk can still go. He certainly can still go. Now, was it the 20 minutes, 22 minutes, 25-minute classic? No. It went about 16 minutes, just over 15 minutes. I think it worked fine. I think Punk can still go, obviously. And again, I think people have to kind of realize their expectations here. Are they expecting CM Punk to be doing all this flippy, all this kind of stuff? Well, no, but he never did that anyway. One of the great things about CM Punk is that whilst he's not this, amateur wrestler, mat wrestling, all this kind of stuff, he's, quite technical. He can kind of do all the technical stuff, and that's what he was doing. Was doing submission holds, was doing a lot of abdominal stretches, a lot of reverse chin locks, and all this kind of stuff. I think, to be honest with you, I think he did very, very well. Didn't look like he missed a beat that much. I thought the psychology was really good. And I think that's where CM Punk is really going to shine in AEW, because that is a criticism that I think is quite justified, to be honest with you, of AEW, is that sometimes the psychology can be a bit limited. And I think Punk was excellent psychology. It went the way I thought it would go, in the sense that I was kind of convinced that, I said this in one of the previews I did, that CM Punk's the bigger guy, so he has to control the match. Obviously, he has to control the match, because he's the bigger guy, and that's how Darby Allin matches work. Darby Allin just basically gets beaten up for 20, 25 minutes, and then eventually he makes a comeback and he either wins or he loses. That's how the Darby Allin match works. I like the spot where CM Punk hit the GTS and Darby Allin fell to the outside of the ring. I thought that was well done. Darby Allin, by the way, sells the hell out of a GTS, it must be said. He really does sell the hell out of the GTS. Darby Allin got sort of back into it, hit the dive to Punk, suicide dive on the outside, and did a senton as well to the outside, which Punk took pretty nicely. I mean, the match was physical as well, no doubt about it. Absolutely physical. The match kind of saw CM Punk keep going for the GTS numerous times as well, which again is smart psychology. Really like the finish though. Really like the finish. I thought the finish was really tremendous. And again, this is kind of where I think how I think this is kind of like, I like how this is where I think Punk's going to stand out. I really do think this is how Punk's going to stand out in AEW. He's not going to stand out by having these incredible moves or anything like that, because again, that's just not his style. And I think if people have those expectations of him, that's just too high, and that's not going to be the case. The way that CM Punk is going to stand out in AEW for me is by psychology and how he actually methodically lays out the matches and the finishes, and a finish is actually leading to something, and a finish being a finish, not a false finish all the time. And I think that's just going to be so, because that's not the case in AEW. I think that's going to be so unique, and I think that's where CM Punk's really going to make his money there. So the finish was after Darby Allin had done that dive to the outside and the senton, rolls Punk back in the ring, does the whole go to sleep because Punk had did it earlier on in the match, mocked the crowd, goes for the coffin drop, and CM Punk just sits up, and they absolutely timed it perfectly. Sits up and he's laughing. He's going, I suckered you in. You thought I was going to do a coffin drop? Nope, not going to happen. So then he lays back. Darby Allin nearly rolls him up. Punk kicks out. Darby Allin once again goes for another kind of package roll up. Again, kicks out. Goes for a poison rana, and as he goes for the poison rana, CM Punk flips him, lands him on the shoulder, GTS 1, 2, 3. Again, wasn't super long. I don't think it needed to be. Glad we didn't see any 2.0 Daniel Garcia interference. I don't think it was needed. This was all about Punk, and I mentioned it in the preview as well, that some people could get, try and figure out maybe Darby should have won, or does Darby lose and hurt him, or does it? It doesn't. Darby being involved with CM Punk's first match gets him over by proxy, which isn't always the case. It isn't always the case. I'm very much a big advocate of people that are coming up the cards when they're in those big matches. They need to win to establish themselves. But when you look at the history books, when people say, what was CM Punk's first match in 7 years? They'll say against Darby Allin. That's how he gets over. People don't remember the second match. They remember the first match. And it doesn't matter whether they won it or lost. It's like Shawn Michaels. He had the match in 1998 against Steve Austin. First match back in 2002. Who's it against? Triple H. Straight away. And it doesn't matter whether Michaels won or lost the match. He won the match. It doesn't matter when it comes to Triple H. I know Triple H was more over than Darby Allin at that point, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter for Darby Allin that he lost tonight. He got over because he hung with CM Punk and he had CM Punk's first match back. That's an honor. That's an honor. So after the match, they get each other up. Sting comes out, shakes the hand of CM Punk. CM Punk shakes the hand of Darby Allin, and it's kind of a case of massive respect. You hung with me. Maybe we'll do it again in the future. I was kind of expecting maybe CM Punk just to drop Sting or something like that and be like, F you, now I'm back kind of thing. They didn't, but it felt like they were maybe teasing going in that direction, but they didn't, of course. But look, I thought it was a good match. Good match. Was it the best match on the show? No, because the steel cage match was the best match on the show. That was the situation there. But I thought it was a great return from Punk, and I think the real fascinating thing now is where does this go now? Who does CM Punk face next? Some people were saying Miro. Some people have been saying Bryan Danielson. Some people are saying Kenny Omega. Some people are saying MJF. There is real options now. It kind of felt obvious that Darby was the right choice for him to face from the outset, but now is the real one of like, where does he go now? Because anyone's a possibility. Is he going to be wrestling on Dynamite soon? It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Before we get to the next match, be sure to smash a like on the video as well. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's do a quick subscriber check, see where we are for subscribers. We're on 5,100, so we did it. Yes, we got to the 5,000. God, I nearly choked. 5,100. I nearly choked on the surprise of 5,100. 5,100 mark. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on this video as well. If you enjoyed All Out, like I think a lot of people did. A lot of people very much enjoyed All Out tonight. It was absolutely tremendous, wasn't it? We'll get to the next match, and we won't talk that much about it because there's no need to talk about it. Paul White beat QT Marshall. That's it. We'll move on to the main event. I'm only joking. We'll talk about it a little bit. QT Marshall lost to Paul White. Look. Who cares? I mean, no disrespect to Paul White. I think it was just a showcase, and we mentioned this before that, the shorter this match went, the better, which was right. And it's not a case on Paul White, which I think he looked fine. He did look rusty, and he's an older guy, it must be said. He's an older guy, but it's just a case of, like I said, like, who cares about QT Marshall? And I think Paul White, there is money to be made there with him. And whether that's a match against Shaquille O'Neal, whether that's occasional matches on pay-per-views or whatever, but it feels like certainly when you're watching him, he's got a handful of matches left in him. I don't think many by watching that tonight. And when it comes to QT Marshall, who cares? Like, honestly, like, who cares? Nobody cares. But I hope this is the end for him. For a while with this just persistent, he's got to be on TV, he's got to be on Dynamite, he's got to be on Rampage, he's got to be in featured spots. No, he doesn't. Put him on Dark Elevation. I get it, he's Cody's best friend. He runs the Nightmare Factory with him, and Tony Khan likes him, and he helps him book the show and write the show, but no more. You've just added Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson to that roster. No thank you. No more QT Marshall. So we'll move on to the main event, which of course was for the AEW World Championship and saw Kenny Omega retain the AEW World Championship over Christian Cage. Look, the match was excellent, and there's no doubt about it. The match was excellent, but I think this kind of fell into the trap that a lot of people thought it would. The match was very good. Everyone knew Kenny Omega was retaining, and certainly for the majority of it, it did kind of feel like, let's just get through the match and have Bryan Danielson show up. Like, it did kind of feel like that, didn't it? It felt like just, okay, yes, we know it's going to be a good match. And it was a good match. And there was some near falls. Christian Cage did hit the kill switch. And there was the Kenny Omega breaking the table over Christian earlier on. That spear through the table. Christian speared Kenny Omega from the ring apron through a table and nearly impaled himself on the table leg, which looked just brutal, didn't it? I mean, the table leg or a shard of wood was up, and it really went into his ribs. I thought we were going to get a Nick Gage situation. He was going to punch her lung for a second. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. So the closing moment of the match saw Kenny Omega get Christian Cage up to the top rope, hit the one-winged angel from the top rope. Of course, no one kicks out of the one-winged angel anyway, let alone from the top rope. So Kenny Omega retains the AEW World Championship, but it was all about what happens after the match. So once the match was over, everyone was going, right, myself included, you can go and see it on the watch-along. Everyone's going, right, okay, here we go. We're going to get Bryan Danielson come out. Kenny Omega gets on the microphone, and the Elite come out, so it's the Young Bucks who sort of hobble their way out to the ring. What's the actual name? Is the Elites? The Super Elites? I don't know what they're calling themselves now. It's like sometimes it's the Super Elite, sometimes it's the Elite. Anyway, the Young Bucks come out. Doc Gallows and Kyle Anderson come out. They're beating down Christian Cage. They're beating him up and all this kind of stuff. And you're thinking, right, here we go. Out come Jurassic Express. So out come Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy and Marko Stunt. They get beaten down, of course, by the Elite. And you're going, right, here we go. Bryan Danielson's about to come out. Music starts to play. Who is it? It's not Bryan Danielson. It's none other than Adam Cole, baby. Yes, Adam Cole has officially signed with All Elite Wrestling, which, looking on it, makes the most sense, doesn't it? Absolutely makes the most sense. He hasn't re-signed with WWE. His contract was expiring. And I mentioned this so many times in the WWE news videos we've done and the AEW news videos that we've done on the channel. Why would you sign with WWE? Honestly, why would you sign with WWE if you were him? Not because of money and stuff like that, but just, again, this is a guy, and Adam Cole, this is a guy that spent 4 years of his career, signed with WWE in 2017, spent 4 years of his career building up that brand from a 1-hour show on the WWE Network to a 2-hour show on USA Network, longest reigning NXT champion of all time. He was just the backbone of that brand. Triple H trusted him. Shawn Michaels trusted him. He put everything into that brand. And what happens? He sees it being actively destroyed by WWE, and he thinks that hard work for nothing, for absolute nothing. You don't care about my work. You don't care about what I've put into this company. You don't care. And at the same time, he's having these meetings with Vince McMahon. He's going, oh, we really want to have you on Raw or SmackDown. We want to really have you on Raw or SmackDown. And at the same time, you've got the president of the company going, you know what? We're just not looking for smaller indie guys anymore. We want to sign bigger guys. And you're going, wait a minute. I meant to be going up to the main roster, and you're the president of the company saying he doesn't want people like me. How can they be trusted? Vince McMahon's telling me at the same time, we really want you. We've got all of these ideas for you. At the same time, he fires like 12 people from NXT, one of which was one of my best friends in Bobby Fish. And again, this is a brand I helped build. How can I trust what you're saying to me? And reality, at the end of the day, if you want to add in Twitch to it as well, he's going, I want to keep on doing my Twitch. And they're like, no, you can't. You can't. Why? Because we want that money. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're Adam Cole. You belong to us. No, I'm not. I'm in an independent contract. No, you can't use Twitch. And all of this stuff is going on. You're just like, why am I here? Why am I here? I can't trust what you're saying to me. I can't trust you with my career because I'm going to end up on Raw SmackDown and I'm going to be like Shorty C or Shorty AC or something like that ridiculous. I'm going to have a stupid gimmick because Bruce Pritchard's going to give me one because he thinks I'm too small. Even someone as big as Karrion Kross is dressing up like a shitty gladiator right now. So let alone what am I going to be? Papa Smurf comes to Monday Night Raw soon. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm not going to stay on with WWE. Plus, again, the damage that they're doing to NXT. Plus, they want me to get rid of my Twitch stuff. No, I'm not going to do that. And whilst he knows if he goes to AEW, he's going to have a spot there. He's going to make good money, and they're going to book him the way he wants to be booked. So why wouldn't he go there? It's the smartest decision. And I think the only reason he would have stayed with WWE would have been out of loyalty to Triple H and Shawn. And I think in reality, after everything that's been going on right now, if he'd had that conversation with Triple H and Shawn, right now they would have said, you know what, go, absolutely go, go, because this place is a disaster, so go. And I think he did, and I think he made the right decision. Obviously, now he's with his partner, he's with people that he likes, people that he can trust, and why would he not decide? So he comes out, you're thinking, right, Adam Cole, maybe Bryan Danielson is going to be at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. And what happens? He faces off with Kenny Omega. Bang, hits Jungle Boy with a super kick, and then you realize Adam Cole is back he's signed with AEW, but he's back with the Elite. He's back with the Bullet Club, if you will. He's back with Kenny Omega, back with the Young Bucks, back with Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. So the Elite got bigger. So Adam Cole's going to be a heel going forward in AEW, and he's going to be a member of the Elite. I think that's right. I think that's right for the time being. I don't think, considering the names that's just come in, like a Bryan Danielson, eventually we can get to a point where it's Adam Cole versus Kenny Omega. But to be honest with you, I think this is probably right for him right now. It puts him straight away at the top. Eventually, there might be a bit of a power struggle and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's probably the right thing. Again, this is kind of the issue of AEW right now, is how do you fit all of these people on the show? If you put him in there with the Elite, everyone's kind of got to be in a faction right now, apart from maybe CM Punk won't have his own faction. But it looks like even Daniel Bryan's going to be with Jurassic Express and Christian and all that kind of stuff. I think now makes the right sense for Adam Cole to be part of the Elite. And again, eventually we can get Adam Cole versus Omega. We can get them sort of turning on each other, but that'll be for another time. Maybe it's a case of if Kenny Omega's facing Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson straight away, maybe it's Hangman Page initially versus Adam Cole. There's certainly options there. So I think that's the right call. So after they've beaten down all those guys, suddenly we hear the music, not that we would have hoped for, to be honest. I think a lot of people hoped Final Countdown. I'm sure AEW looked into it. I mean, I think there's probably a media call going on right now as I'm streaming right now. I'm sure there's a media call going on. And it would be interesting to see what Tony Khan said. It'd be interesting to see what Tony Khan said about that. I'm sure they looked into it, the Final Countdown. And like I said before, I think it's like millions and millions of dollars to license it. And whilst even Tony Khan has a lot of money, it's just not financially viable at all to do that. So instead we got the, Flight of the Valkyries, which was his WWE theme song, which in reality he's more known for than the Final Countdown. So out comes Bryan Danielson. They clear the ring. And closing the show, you have the Super Elite with Adam Cole, with the Young Bucks, with Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, Kenny Omega, Don Callis standing on the top of the ramp. And then in the ring, you have Bryan Danielson, you have Jurassic Express, and you have Christian Cage as well. So I would assume this is leading to some kind of big match, probably at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. Like I said, like an 8-man or 10-man tag or something like that. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, before we wrap this up here, and we've got over 150 people watching, so be sure to smash a like on the video if you enjoyed All Out. Subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I said at the beginning of the video, it feels like a shift, doesn't it? It feels like this right now, when you're watching like a big moment, and it feels like, oh man, AEW just really sent a message tonight. AEW truly just sort of went, okay, this is legit now. Again, in the past, people are saying, oh, just ex-WWE guys. All they're doing is signing ex-WWE guys. Or they're doing this, they're doing that. In reality, what you have to look at when it comes to AEW tonight is, yes, this is ex-WWE guys, but this is ex-WWE guys that have decided not to sign with WWE. These are ex-WWE guys that WWE wanted. WWE wanted Adam Cole. They actively made tons of offers to re-sign him. Of course they wanted Daniel Bryan. The guy was in the main event of WrestleMania this year. And ultimately, these people have decided to go to AEW. Why? Because they think it's a better place. And that's the big slight on WWE right now. Now, again, is AEW going to put WWE out of business? Of course they're not. WWE is the institution, and they're still making the most money they've ever made. But having a CM Punk wrestle, having a Daniel Bryan come in, having Adam Cole come over, proves to people that this is the place to be at the moment. And no company, not Impact Wrestling, not since WCW went out of business, no company has had the momentum that hasn't been WWE that AEW has right now. They are the legitimate, credible alternative. I'm fascinated, absolutely fascinated to see what happens on Dynamite this Wednesday. I'm fascinated to see the ratings for Dynamite on Wednesday and, of course, Rampage on Friday. But AEW is doing really, really, really big things right now. Really big things. And like I said before, this whole narrative, oh, you're just signing ex-WWE guys and all this kind of stuff. At this point, you just have to give AEW the credit and say, you know what? They're nailing it. They're absolutely nailing it. And like I said, no company, in my opinion, has had the momentum at this point that AEW has right now. No company has had that momentum in, 20 years? And I don't think anyone ever thought that we could see that again. I don't think anyone thought we could see again the situation where we would have a company legitimately competing with WWE. And again, I know people will go, well, ratings and all that, and Monday Night Raw still gets more viewers than Dynamite and all that. And every time I say to all this kind of stuff, I go, well, they should be. I've got people go, yeah, SmackDown gets more viewers than Dynamite. Well, duh, it's on Fox. It's on network television. Of course it should. If it didn't, there would be a massive problem. Fox would drop SmackDown. Same for like Monday Night Raw. They'll go, Monday Night Raw gets more viewers than Dynamite for now. But in a couple of years, 18 months' time, it's a real possibility that won't be the case. A real possibility. The demo is very strong for NXT as well. For NXT, no, it's not for NXT. For AEW as well. And people like Bryan Danielson coming in, people like Adam Cole coming in. Again, what happens when other people's contract starts to expire as well? Because I have no doubt in my mind that people right now, when they're seeing CM Punk in AEW, when they're seeing Bryan Danielson in AEW, when they're seeing Adam Cole go to AEW, when all of these guys are seeing these guys now in AEW, when they're seeing these New Japan guys come over, when they're seeing Moxley in there, when they're seeing Omega, when they're seeing Minoru Suzuki coming for an odd appearance and all that kind of stuff, they're realizing, I want to do that as well, actually. And when those contracts start to come up, people will start to ask questions. And that's where I think AEW will do some damage in the long term. And I think now, to be honest with you, it's a case of, WWE moving towards their whole, we're going to be moving towards having non-independent guys. We're going to be moving towards having people that come from athletic backgrounds. We're going to be moving towards people that, were in the Olympics and they played in the NFL and the NBA and all that kind of stuff. And AEW is like, fine, have them. Tony Khan said it, fine, have them. I want to have professional wrestlers. And that's, again, how it's going to differentiate itself even more. WWE is going to go back to what they were doing in the mid-2000s, signing those people without pro wrestling backgrounds and trying to mold them in their image. And AEW is going to become a pro wrestling company. I think what's going to be interesting is I think there is a greater demand for a pro wrestling company right now than a sports entertainment company. I think a lot of people, and tonight's a great example of going, you know what, I like pro wrestling. I don't really like sports entertainment that much, to be honest with you. And I think that's the same with pro wrestlers. People that have a pro wrestling background want to be in a pro wrestling company. They don't really want to be in a sports entertainment company, in my opinion. And that's why I think it's an exciting time. Look, this is a really exciting time. A really exciting time to be a pro wrestling fan, and I think we should just enjoy it. This is what we used to always say for years, People used to say about getting the Monday Night Wars back, and I don't know if I want to see another war back or anything like that. It was enough with the Wednesday Night Wars, and that wasn't even really that much of a war, to be honest with you. It was more of a happy slap fight. But, I myself feel that so fortunate now watching this, watching these companies, or a company like AEW come back up. I'm starting to think, this is really an exciting time, and I think we should all be just excited, really, really excited, because things are getting really big now, really big. I mean, Bryan Danielson showed up in AEW tonight. That's a really big deal. He was in the main event of WrestleMania earlier this year. Adam Cole, what better example of the war is over than, Adam Cole was the face of NXT, and now the face of NXT is in AEW. It's a pretty good example that the war is over, right? Pretty good example. But look, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. It's been a long evening for yours truly. It's nearly 6 a.m. in the morning here. But you know what? I wouldn't miss it for the world. I love doing this kind of thing. I love talking to you guys. I love doing these watch-alongs, and I love doing these post-show reactions because I love talking to you guys. I love getting your opinions. I love interacting with you guys. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that subscribed tonight and has liked the videos. We do daily videos talking about all things WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and everything in the world of pro wrestling. So now's the best time to subscribe, and it's only going to get better from here. Hope to